Pranav is a science communicator who is active on major social media pages. He is an engineering graduate from the National Institute of Technology, Calicut, and was working as electronics engineer at Texas Instruments and later as a physics content director. Pranav runs the YouTube channel Science is Dope, where he talks about science and exposes the misinformation and pseudoscience spread by public influencers. The topic presented by Pranav is How Religion Hijacks Science. Please welcome Mr. Pranav Radhakrishnan.
Thank you. That very flattering introduction. And thank you, esSENSE, for inviting me to speak here. Is everything sounding fine, by the way? Yeah, everything's great. Because I don't hear it the same way as you do, so I had to ask. So, for those of you who don't know me, you heard the intro also. My name is Pranav. I run this YouTube channel. It's called Science is Dope. I think some of you might already be knowing me, but you're free to look me up on YouTube. On the channel, I talk about science topics, and also I do videos that fight misinformation. Yeah, I do videos that fight misinformation, and also I try to talk against the misinformation that's peddled by a lot of popular pages, mainly other YouTube channels. And I'm not gonna, if you don't know me already, I'm not gonna bore you with a more elaborate intro. You can check out my YouTube page. I'm sure you'll find some video that's interesting. I'm going to talk about the topic, how does religion hijack science? I hope you already know the person whose face is right there. That's Sri Ravi Shankar. And earlier this year, I happened to watch this video. You can see the title, What is God? And yeah, scientists ask Gurudev, whatever. So it's a video where he's sitting under a tree and has a bunch of scientists, and these are all professors from IITs and ISCs and other prominent institutes, and they're all sitting around him and asking him questions, very scientific questions about the nature of the universe, how did the universe begin, what is dark matter, what is the nature of energy, all these questions to a God man. I'm going to talk about what destroys their scientific temper to a point where they end up asking these questions to someone who isn't a physicist, isn't a scientist. Now, these scientists are all asking questions in the tone of, did our ancestors know about this? Did our scriptures talk about this? They're asking questions to him in this nature. And he's reciting these shlokas and interpreting all sorts of dark matter and advanced physics concepts from these shlokas. And he's saying, yes, this is probably about dark matter. You can watch this video. This is the title of the video. So you can see what I'm talking about. Now, that brings us to the topic of what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about this. How does religion hijack science? So, before we ask this question, how religion hijacks science, we have to ask ourselves, why does religion need to hijack anything? Can't religion stand on its own 2 feet? And why science? Why does it need to hijack science? Let's answer the first part of the question. Why does religion need to hijack anything? This is a statistic that I got off the internet. It shows you how the religiosity of various countries is changing over this period, 2007 to 2019. So you can see the vast majority of countries, it's basically gone, the religiosity has gone down by like 1-2 points. But there are a few on top, like you can see the first 5 maybe, the religiosity has increased, and India is right on top of that list. And you can ask yourself, what is the reason for this? There are many reasons. I think the major reason is probably that the party that's in power right now, I think it uses religion to unify its voters and create that religious identity in people and get people to strongly hold on to their religion. I think they're doing a fantastic job of it. But another reason is that religion kind of piggybacks on science. So it's just, you can see this phenomena happening in your very own phones. Just check your family WhatsApp group. The reason for that message that talks about, this religious text talks about the distance between the sun and the earth some several hundred years back, or that I don't know, this practice in your religion is very scientific. All these are examples of how religion piggybacks on science. And why science? Why does it need to piggyback on science? So the success of science is fairly obvious to us, right? Like we've had 100+ years of scientific, of the Industrial Revolution, engineering, and this global connectivity that you have here. This very event, the fact that I can speak into this mic and y'all can hear what I'm saying. I don't have to shout. All this is a product of science. The success of science is fairly obvious to everyone, right? So if what you're saying gets an endorsement from science itself, something as successful as science itself, then clearly it has to be solid, right? It has to be extremely valid, right? That's what religion does. And what ends up happening is the online world is mostly where I do my work. And so the online world is what I'm more concerned with. And if you look at, let's say, a social media site like YouTube India, you end up seeing content like this. These are some of the thumbnails of videos that are super popular on YouTube. And they're all pseudoscience. They're all propelling this idea that Hinduism or their religion is something that's highly scientific and had all these ideas in our country. All our ancestors had these technologies and everything way back, and we've forgotten all that. Maybe our texts, our documentation of all this has been destroyed by people who came into this country. So I'm going to talk about what is the reason behind this phenomenon. And in a country like India that has so many engineers and doctors and so many scientifically well-educated people, why does this sort of content fly? Like, other people who watch this sort of content, can't they tell that this is clearly not correct, right? So the answer to that is kind of related to how science is treated at home. So I think if we go back a couple of decades, I'm assuming most of you are middle class. So India is mostly middle class, right? So maybe a couple of decades back, the economic or financial state of most households wasn't all that great. So the primary objective of students that are going into the education system, their objective would be to improve the financial state of the family, which means get a good, well-paying job. And most well-paying jobs are in engineering and medicine, science subjects. Of course, there are a couple of others, but they're not as commonplace as engineering and medicine. The world needs a lot of engineers and doctors. And to to get a really high paying job, you need to get into good colleges, and that means you need to do really well in your science subjects in school. So science is sort of treated, science is sort of treated as a means to an end, and the end being money, the end being a well-paying job. So what ends up happening is a lot of students don't really care about science. They only learn science in order to get good jobs. And so, in fact, a lot of my friends, I would say, they're working in jobs, they're working in science jobs, but they're not doing what they like. They're doing something that would make them a lot of money. And so they're really miserable in their jobs. And apart from that, the same kind of people also have, they might have really good scientific knowledge, but they don't have scientific temper. Scientific knowledge is not the same as scientific temper, and a lot of people don't recognize this. And these professors in this video are exactly those kinds of people. They have science jobs, but they don't really care about science. They're not in science, in a science field, because they want to be in it. Right? They in the science field kind of because that is what makes the money. And so where do you turn to? See, as humans, we are all naturally curious, naturally self-aware. So where do you turn to? You would have these questions about, these why questions. Why am I here? What is our place in the universe? Where do you turn to answer those questions? You turn to the same thing that you were indoctrinated with all through your childhood from home, religion. And so you end up asking these questions to a God man instead of the very field, the very science field that you're working in, that would help you answer those questions. Right? And also because of this lack of scientific temper, you end up seeing all this pseudoscience. So this is something religious books talks about. This is one example, talks about the distance between the earth and the sun. Another example is how this religious symbol is apparently radioactive, it seems. I have no idea how that works, but apparently it's radioactive. And someone might use their scientific credentials to deny evolution. So so I'll talk about another reason for all this, and it's a rise of social media. Remember when I said that science jobs are the ones that are so commonplace and very high paying? There's a new career that does all those things. The content creator. It's a decently high paying job if you have a high enough audience. And as long as what you're saying, there's a huge audience to listen to whatever you're saying, you can be really successful at this career. And not only do you not have to learn science for doing this, you can also talk about science without knowing anything about it. You can talk about science because the majority of your audience will blindly listen to you and believe whatever it is that you say. So that's the reason why you end up seeing all this pseudoscience. Now, there are entire companies I've seen, I'm mostly concerned with YouTube and what's happening there. And I've seen entire content creation channels that make content that props up religion using science and make content like this. This is an actual video. I'll let you take in the ridiculousness of the topic of this video. And this is the channel that actually talked about this, that actually made this video. I couldn't control my laughter when I saw this. I've done a couple of videos debunking this already, so you're free to check that out also. But yeah, you end up seeing content like this because a lot of people already believe this sort of stuff, and yeah, this is what happens. So what exactly is the solution to this? I think a part of this was already discussed by Janavi ma'am previously in the previous talk. But I think what she talked about is a more top-down approach, like the teachers being trained properly in order to inculcate proper scientific temper in them. But whatever I'm suggesting can be an additional solution. Maybe it can be complementary to that. What I think we should do is a more bottom-up approach. Instill this interest in science in students directly. Like, see, I'm thinking of, maybe a couple of years back, I would see videos of these 10, 12-year-old girls who go crazy at a Justin Bieber concert. And this interest in Justin Bieber's music is not something their parents gave them, right? That's something they learned on their own. That's an interest they developed on their own. So why not develop such an interest in science in the same students? How do we do this exactly? Let's try and build, we already have a couple of these things, but let's try and have more of it. I think the more avenues that children have to kind of develop this interest in science, I think the better it's going to be. It can be things like museums or this kind of astronomy and stargazing clubs or whatever, and science workshops or exhibitions or planetariums that we have. See, at the end of the day, I think as long as the problem we have is that students treat science, or science gets treated as a purely academic discipline and not something that's beautiful in itself. I've been fortunate enough to develop that interest in science right from a young age, but I can't say that for most children. And I think that's something that should happen more of. And I think these are all avenues to kind of inculcate that interest. And another thing that can be done is, you know how you have magic shows, you have stage shows for things like magic or whatever? Why don't we have science shows? Like experiments and stuff on display. Now, this thing happened at YouTube live event. These two on either side are popular YouTubers. But why don't we have more of this in India, in parts of the world that need more science? And another thing that can be done is social media is on the rise right now. So we should have way more social media pages that promote science, that talk about science. So all this, I would say, is a bottom-up approach that develops an interest in science among whoever is among the viewers. So this is something that's not only for children. This can be something for adults as well. You can build a curiosity for anything at any age, right? So I'm just saying children because obviously they're the most easily influenced. Adults are kind of, they're kind of more rigid than children, I would say, in their beliefs. So, yeah. And yeah, that I guess is what I want to say. So if there are any questions, if anyone wants to ask me anything, go ahead. Yeah?
You want to ask directly?
Can you please comment about scientific some jargons like quantum consciousness and things like that?
Yeah, so that goes along with using science to piggyback your idea. So it's not only religion, right? A lot of alternative medicine and there are some peddlers like B.M. Hegde. He's the one who talks about quantum consciousness a lot. So it's just uh, it it's just another thing that's piggybacking on science. So yeah, they use buzzwords that make it sound scientific in order to do that. So quantum consciousness is one such thing. Yeah.
Thank you, Pranav. Great job you're doing for scientific, popular knowledge. Just I wanted to know your perspective on how the YouTubers fight, right? Like this YouTube fight, Carrie Minati and
Yeah,
each
yeah.
other. So, what's the fight between science and pseudoscience on YouTube?
So I think so. YouTube is one genre that's very popular on YouTube is roasting or beefing with other YouTubers, and it happens between YouTubers usually. So I think in my initial days when I first started the channel, I was sort of while I was still a small channel with like just a few hundred subs, I used to try and capitalize on the popularity of that genre and try and make videos that kind of attack people spreading these ideas. But lately, I've realized that that's actually not a very good way of doing it because if there's one sentence of what you said that people don't like, and everything else they agree with, everything else in the video they might agree with, they'll use that one sentence to disregard everything else you say in the video. And they'll comment that, and people will read that comment and latch onto it and say that. So I often get comments like, oh, I'm anti-religion, anti-Hindu, whatever. And I've realized that it's important to make your point without attacking these people because, yeah, like I said, people latch on to that one thing you said that they don't agree with to disagree with your entire video and the entire content of whatever you're saying. And it obviously I'm talking about videos here, but whatever. If you're having a discussion, if you're talking about something, if you have an idea, the same thing kind of applies with wherever you're talking. Hope I answered that question. Yeah.
I just want to know that the Constitution protects religious sentiments, right? So how much can we progress in addressing these things? Because in the West, you don't have to worry about hurting sentiments. Here, we are almost scared about that.
Yeah.
So how much can we progress? How fast can we progress with this?
How much? I don't have an answer for that. See, this 51H, which talks about developing a scientific temper, and at the same time, the right that the Constitution gives you a right to protect your religious sentiments. I think those two are contradictory things that the Constitution provides. So there are many people that talk about the ridiculousness of protection of religious sentiments. That act, I think sometime in the future it'll go away. I think that act was initially put in place to avoid religious tensions, especially that's needed in a country that has such religious diversity. And I think it was put in place for that purpose, but I think now it's kind of being misused to silence people that are saying what they don't like. So ideally, if it's being enforced very seriously, I don't think much progress can happen. But as far as I can see, it's not being enforced very seriously. So I think progress can happen despite having both these sentiments, but it requires a lot of, what I said, solutions that develop a scientific temper among the audience. So, yeah. Is that all? There's one more question that I got. Does subjects like cosmology and origin of the universe and life on Earth make people last in science? I think that's last. And they find these pseudosciences as some means of finding meaning for their lives. I know it's a question there, but subjects like I think I'll just comment on this. So yeah, I think subjects like cosmology and origin of the universe and life and everything, I think those subjects can help answer some burning questions that people have. So yeah, when people don't get enough of that, I think they do, latch on to pseudosciences that pretend to answer those very same questions.